I'm really glad that you all could join us today. I'm Arshveer Kaur from Connecting Dreams Foundation, and welcome to this another exciting session of Youth for Sustainability Dialogues. And I welcome you on the behalf of CDF and the organizing partner, Global Network for Sustainable Development, Helping Hand International, and Masterpiece Foundation. Youth for Sustainability Dialogues allow the young changemaker to be an integral part of the youth movement, aligned with the goal of achieving SDGs that are truly global in nature. As you all know, we aim to provide our audience an understanding of different SDGs, the real issues related to it, and present to you the changemakers who are working tirelessly in this field. Today is yet another day where we'll discuss the different SDG and facilitate the work of the changemakers. The theme for today's session is Empowering Youth Action to Combat Climate Change under the realm of SDG 13, for which we have really inspiring panelists, Mr. Anveshi Gupta, CEO at Quest Sustainable Solutions, Sadvika Chandrasekhar, Environmental Sciences Consultant at AtQuest, and Vaibhav Arora, Waste Management Professional and an incoming 2041 Climate Force Expeditioner to Antarctica. We welcome all our dear panelists. We are particularly pleased to have as our expert today, Dr. Sapna Narula, Professor and Dean at School of Management Studies, Nalanda University, and Board of Directors of Global Network for Sustainable Development. Recipient of UN Global Compact Innovative SDG Practices Award 2019, ma'am has vivid experience in a range of subjects like sustainability management, sustainability reporting, corporate social responsibility, sustainable business strategy, and business ecosystem and community. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Without further ado, I would like to invite our first panelist, Mr. Vaibhav Arora, to share with us about his journey and his initiatives with us.
Thanks a lot, Ashvi. Hi, everyone. Really glad to be here, and thanks a lot for for organizing this session. I think it's very important to have dialogues around the subject and collaborate with like-minded people. So I'm Vaibhav Arora. I'll just share my screen here to take you through my journey. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Vaibhav.
Great. So right now I'm 23 years old and I'm originally from New Delhi, and I'm working with an organization named Karo Sambhav, which is working in the field of circular economy for plastic waste, e-waste, and other types of waste. We are also entering into battery waste and glass waste. I am working there as an executive assistant to the CEO, wherein I'm involved in different activities related to the organization, sometimes related to hiring, sometimes related to working on certain projects. So it's like working in a startup, which is where all the roles you experience a bit of all the things. So I've always been passionate about environment, and my love affair with plastic waste or waste management as in general began when I was in college. I have been also been fortunate to work and intern with different organizations. So I've worked with travel organizations and NGOs and other organizations in the waste management as well. So during my college, I was also associated with Enactus, which also works pretty similar to with the similar aim as CDF, and various projects where we were promoting social entrepreneurship amongst the communities, where they were working on different aspects, and the aim of all the projects were to achieve triple bottom line approach of planet, people, and profit. So I was fortunate to get exposure during my college to work on these projects. And my journey began with Enactus at college level, where I got exposed to a lot of different types of people, different types of cultures, and understanding what social entrepreneurship really is. Then during my college, I got this very interesting opportunity to work in the mountains with the travel organization India Hikes, where I was working in a village on creating a solutions for plastic waste in a very remote village in Uttarakhand. That 1 month of experience really really made me think that what are we doing with our consumption patterns and how we are managing waste, especially in the remote villages like in Uttarakhand. So that was really an eye opener for me, and that's where my personal journey to work in waste management began. Then the volunteering and like talking to different people began when I came back from Uttarakhand. And then I tried to explore and try to do different things. So I worked in the field of zero hunger, which I worked with this organization named Feeding India, which is working on eradicating hunger and preventing food wastage at a pan India level. So this was also an amazing experience where I worked with the team, and this was at a time when Zomato acquired Feeding India. So the operations were also scaling up a lot throughout the country. Then I did do this. I worked with this travel company, which was working with students on outdoor education, wherein I worked on making their camps eco-friendly and free from plastic waste. I worked with conducting some classes with their students on how to upcycle waste, how to manage waste at camps, their campsites, which were in Himachal, Uttarakhand, South India. So there were lots of places where I was trying to make standard operating procedures for managing waste effectively. So that was again due to my curiosity to know more about waste management that I joined this organization. Then I did this 1 year fellowship which was based out of Ladakh. This was Naropa Fellowship, which was a 1 year post graduation diploma in entrepreneurship and leadership. And again, since I was really intrigued by the problem of waste management in the Himalayan region, I decided to do this fellowship in September 2019. Then once I graduated from this fellowship in September 2020, I joined this organization, Karo Sambhav. In different domains in plastic waste. Now I'm working as an EA to the CEO. So there has been a lot of learnings in the last 1.3 years. And during these, I was also involved with various community organizations like Jagriti Yatra, which is also a very interesting thing. I think everyone in the who is on the call should check this out. It's a once in a lifetime experience, especially if you are in India, wherein you take a train journey from Mumbai and you stay with 500 other people who are very interested in entrepreneurship and doing something meaningful for the society. So it's a very interesting train journey and one of its kind train journey. I've also been associated with Unleash, which is also a global SDGs community, which are working towards achieving sustainable development goals. So this has been my journey till now. It's been a really great journey and a lot of learnings and still a lot to learn and still a lot to do. Another upcoming thing that is there in my journey is that I've been selected for this expedition to Antarctica, which will be happening in March 2022. So this is a expedition focusing on climate change in Antarctica, and this is it's an expedition that has been happening for around 20-23 years, and this is led by Sir Robert Swan, who is the first person in the history to walk across both North Pole and South Pole. And a lot of different people from different backgrounds, 100 to 150 people will be joining this expedition. And it's a 12-day journey to Antarctica. Again, a carbon negative expedition wherein they offset all the carbon footprints that are generated during the expedition. And during the expedition as well, the focus is that least amount of carbon footprints are generated. So this 2041. So just giving you all a brief idea about this, that 2041 is the year when Antarctica Treaty will be open for discussion, wherein countries might be coming together and then making this treaty, like canceling this treaty, wherein then other countries can exploit the resources of Antarctica. This has been happening in the North Pole Arctic region, but Antarctica has been preserved by this treaty, Antarctic Treaty. So 2041 is the number where Sir Robert Swan is focusing that the treaty should not be cancelled at any cost. There are lots of facts. I would not go into the detail about all the facts, but we all are hearing a lot of facts about Antarctica. In fact, today also I saw one news that one of the glacier scientists revealed that one of the glaciers in Antarctica is at a very it's in a very danger zone, wherein and if that glacier is melted, a lot of negative effects will happen. So the name of the glacier is Doomsday Glacier. So a lot of things are happening. There were like the highest temperature was also recorded in February 2020. So all of these things are happening in Antarctica, and we really need to spread the message out that Antarctica climate change in Antarctica will affect the cities in Mumbai, Miami, all the coastal cities. So the message has to be loud and clear. My expectations during the expedition will be to understand the climate change effects in Antarctica, understanding the science behind climate change effects in Antarctica. I definitely would like to learn from a lot of other inspiring individuals, and I would also learn from the lessons. There will be different workshops that will be organized during the expedition. So my focus will be on that. After the expedition, I would like to share my learnings, my experiences with corporations, and spread knowledge amongst different universities, different organizations, so that they are also aware that climate change in Antarctica will affect all of us. So that will be my focus. I would also like to collaborate with industries to reduce what are the most if efficient ways to reduce their carbon footprints and greenhouse gas emissions. And also the focus will be on youth to make them understand about climate change and empower them to take actions for a better future for our future generations as well. So yeah, that has been my journey. I really look forward to interacting with you all and learning from you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhav. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I would really request our expert, Dr. Sapna Narula ma'am, to share her views regarding what Prabhav has shared about his initiative, about his, efforts that he has been making.
Thank you, Weber, for an exciting presentation. In fact, after having seen your presentation, it just occurred that you're really an enthusiastic person, and you are a climate enthusiast. So that because the kind of journey you have taken throughout during last 2-3 years, you have done enough. So I just wonder how in a short span of your life, you're only 23, you have covered so many milestones. So that's really great achievement. My congratulations to you. But I have a small query, like how at this young age you think that you have made impact through these initiatives. You are learning, you are being made aware through these initiatives, and these initiatives were funded by various organizations, whether it is the Naropa Fellowship or even Karo Sambhav. I know your CEO as well, Pranchu Singhal.
Yes.
So I know how he started, and it's quite a challenging job, and then even this Connecting Dreams Foundation. So you have been absorbing a lot of knowledge. Now what are you giving back to the world? So may I ask you this? So maybe once you come back from your Antarctica expedition, we would like to know how will you make impact on other communities?
Sure. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks for your kind words. I think the focus has been, I think there has been a lot of information that I have received and learned from a lot of different individuals, but the focus has always been to interact with like-minded people, interact with people who are smarter, who have done a lot of things. So I think networking is something that has really benefited me in every aspect of all the things that I have done. One thing that was a game changer was to ask, basically asking things, because when you are young, you can ask a lot of things. So I think my advice to all the participants will be to ask, to reach out to people, to ask certain questions, ask the queries that you're facing, and then take one day at a time. Like, always focus on taking one day at a time and how you can make the maximum impact each day. So that has been the focus, and start with yourself. I think the focus has been to start with my own self. I consciously try to make sustainable choices in my daily life. Then I try to, then once I am able to take like make those choices, then I try to like ask people to take those choices. So that has been the constant focus, so that I don't go out there and just talk about things. I should first implement it myself. So that has been the focus. And through my job as well, I think I've been trying to create a lot of impact, whether it is collecting plastics, different types of plastics which are recyclable and non-recyclable, going on field, trying to spread awareness amongst different stakeholders. I think every aspect of the work that we are doing at Karo Sambhav is creating a lot of impact, whether it is in plastic waste, e-waste, and now that we are also working in different sectors. It has been a roller coaster journey, and a journey full of impact. But again, like I said, that still a lot of work needs to be done, so that one should not be satisfied with like what one has been doing. So uh, always stay curious. I think trying to learn different aspects. So now I'm trying to learn more scientific aspects of climate change, trying to get more into the details of how plastics can be reduced, what are the alternatives, what are more zero waste lifestyle opportunities which can be accessed by any common citizens who don't care a lot about waste. And also that has been the things that I've been thinking and trying to implement.
Thank you, Weber. My key message to you is that it's time now to stop focusing on how you are benefited. Rather, you have to look forward to other communities. You have created a lot of knowledge at your end and at your organization level. It's now time to give back. How one person can transform the lives of other people, around 100 people. So we had this focus earlier in the earlier days, like each one teach one. So if you are already a conscious consumer, you said that you are making sustainable choices, so how can you make your entire family, your community, your relatives, how are you making impacts? That's my key advice to you. Thank
Sure.
you, and keep doing this wonderful work. I'm really impressed.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your inputs. I would request from the audience, if they have any question, if they have any remarks, you can unmute yourself and you can interact with Vaibhav. And in case if you cannot unmute yourself, you can please take it into the chat box. You can, yes, David, yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon to you all. And I'm David Cole. I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm just coming in. Sorry for the late coming. So I just need a brief choreography on what you have just been saying. I just want to introduce myself and keep silent and get what people will say and later comment later. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you introducing yourself, and we hope to interact with you later in the session. So do we have any questions for Vaibhav, or we can proceed ahead? Okay, I think we'll move ahead then. Thank you so much, Vaibhav, for sharing your inspirational journey with us. Moving ahead, we have our set of panelists with us, Sadvika Chandrasekhar and Mr. Anveshi Gutta from AdQuest Sustainable Solutions. Over to you both.
Thanks, Arshveer. Thank you. First things first, I think Vaibhav, super inspiring story. I mean, I don't know how that was possible for a 23-year-old, but what you've done is super great. Looks like an endless hunger for learning and growing. So all the best for you. Having said that, I think I'll take up what we are here for. At Quest Sustainable Solutions, a company that's been around for about 18 months now. We've looked at this whole problem of climate change as a systemic problem. That's the way we've approached this. This is not a one-dimensional, unidimensional problem. This is a systemic problem. It requires a systemic approach, and that's how we've taken this up. We are a tech-enabled social enterprise who are into this whole requirement to address behavioral change, and that's what we are intending to do. And while doing that, we have looked at different segments that we could help in this journey, and we've looked at corporates as one segment. We've looked at schools as another. We've looked at communities and residential societies as the third one. And then finally, folks like Vaibhav who are already on their journey or probably wanting to get on that journey to drive individual change and expand that further, like Sapna Narula ma'am was saying, in terms of expanding it to communities around them. So that's the broad perspective with which we approach climate change. In this particular conversation, we will be looking at one specific thread of that whole approach, and that thread is all about how do we look at climate change being approached through education, and this is about education at school. Again, very complex in itself, but then I think what we've done is we've tried to see how we could make it simpler for easier consumption, and that's what Sadvika from my team will also take you through. I'm going to stay on the call and wait for questions, but I'm sure Sadvika will be able to take us through a lot more details on this topic. So Sadvika, over to you.
Thank you, Anveshi. Hi, everyone. A very good evening to everyone present. My name is Sadhika, and I have been working with AtQuest for just a little under a year now. And I'm very, very privileged to be here with you all today, talking about a very, very pertinent topic and addressing a very relevant crowd. So I'll be discussing how we could possibly tackle climate change through appropriate education, and what better platform to do this on than the Youth for Sustainability Dialogues. Okay, let me quickly get started. With regards to climate action and climate change, we are very well aware that the current situation is quite dire. It's not a very great situation that we're in, and we know that the next few years are very, very crucial. So the next decade is actually called the decade of action. And the time after that is also equally important. We know that the immediate action that we're talking about, which is in the next 10 years or so, could involve things like institutional action, tech evolution, and trying to scale up the impact to tone down global warming trend, and trying to meet emission reduction targets by a maximum of 2030, which is basically what everyone has set for themselves, right? But on the other hand, it's equally important to look ahead to make sure that we don't lose out on the progress that's being made currently in terms of climate action. It's very important to make whatever changes we're making right now, so the immediate changes need to be made long lasting. And this could be done either via foundational aspects. In order to make things right, just simple awareness is not enough. We need behavioral shifts as well. And following this, we also need to have ingrained changes. So after proper foundation is set, it's very important to make these changes very habitual, to make ourselves a cleaner or a greener person, you know, like to fit into the greener world that's coming. So under long-lasting aspects, these can be brought about by behavioral changes, sustainability education, having shifts in lifestyle, making sure eco-friendly alternatives are made more mainstream and accessible to the daily man. And this can be done in two ways. So this behavioral action can be done through institutional behavior, where scalability is comparatively easily done as compared to the other option. And it talks about corporates, residential societies, gated communities, and schools, which take a huge part in nurturing and taking responsibility for the children of tomorrow. Apart from this, we also have individual behavior, which is which includes all millennials. So basically, individuals are everyone, right? Anyone who's like a child to an adult, everyone are individuals. But I think the most relevant crowd that we're speaking to in terms of climate action are at least for the next 20 to 40 years are these generations. So millennials, so people who are born between 1980 and 1995, Gen Z, which are people who are born between 1996 and 2010, and Gen Alpha, who are born after 2010. So basically, the highlighted green boxes that you can see talks about people who are currently like 10 to early 20s, right? And they are the focus of our conversation today. So it's very important to make sure that this climate education and this knowledge is very well ingrained in them. So seeing as how we are focused on the next 30 to 40 years in climate change and climate action, people who are 5 to 15 today, who are basically school kids, right? Like Gen Alpha and early or late Gen Z, you can call them, they will have their own sustainability journey. They'll have their own life cycle. And this is currently what we are focusing on immediately. And we're going to see how schools could possibly give kids an opportunity to teach kids what is very crucial, and also give them the right environment and tools and information to apply this knowledge that they teach them in a practical way, and equip them with the right kind of comprehension, right, of what is required from them as the future society, as the future generations who are going to be responsible pillars of society. So kids in school who are like basically Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like I mentioned earlier, they're very impressionable. So this is the perfect age to kind of instill in them these behavioral changes or these long lasting changes that I was talking about. And then they'll carry these changes into their young adulthood, and in turn pass it on to the next generation, and so on and so forth. So this is where this long lasting or foundational behavioral change needs to be ingrained. Coming to the school education system today, it's definitely not the same that it was even like 2-3 years ago. There are major revamps and trends that are being going on in the educational system today, and I'm going to talk about like the top 3 relevant trends that I think are very crucial. The first one is a focus on 21st century skills. So as of late, there's been a lot of focus on outside the book, like a holistic development of a child, not just what's being taught in class. So there's a lot of focus on learning, literacy skills. Literacy skills is the curriculum. So apart from the literacy skills, we have the learning and the life skills. And basically, this is getting a lot of attention today. The second trend that I'd like to discuss is the NEP, or the National Education Policy. And it rolled out last year and it's still being implemented in different parts of the educational system of India now. And this, what the NEP states is that it's very important to have a balance of critical thinking and enhanced essential learning. So basically what this means is involving a lot of nature-based and hands-on practical techniques and activities along with the curriculum, so side by side. And the third relevant trend that I'd like to talk about is the changing outlook of the new generation. So younger kids of today are definitely not what we were like even 5 years ago. So they have a very different outlook. They're very well informed, they're very eco-conscious, and they're also very well connected. They're very, very aware of the conversations that are being had, of what's relevant in today's world, and how these conversations and how the current trends are going to impact them in the next 5-6 years. So how can these trends that are being seen in the life of like a normal school student, these trends, given the right enabling environment, how can it impact education or climate knowledge in a child. Let me take you through an example, right? So we're going to see a blended learning story of a 14-year-old girl called Nitya. And she is a class 9 student in a private CBC school. She lives with her parents and her younger brother in a residential township in Bangalore. And she loves sports, the outdoors, and nature. So let's see just what a day in the life of Nitya is like. Um, so Nitya wakes up at really early. She gets ready for school at 6:30, and it's Saturday, so it's the last day of the week for her. And she gets picked up by her school's e-green bus, which shows that her school is very interested in sustainability or in like climate action. So her school bus picks up Nitya and her neighbors who also live in the township every day. And then she goes to school. She actively participates in like the environmental studies class, both inside and outside the classroom, and she applies it in like the practical side of it. And then it's lunchtime, so she brings a home packed lunch that her mom's like consciously packed for her with healthy and nutritious food. And we see that the lunchbox itself is reusable. It's like what we would take, like an aluminum little tiffin box, right? And she drinks water from like a non-plastic, um, non-single use plastic bottle, so like a flask. And after eating, she makes sure that all the food waste is being disposed in the right bins, color-coded bins, which is what everyone else in school does. So making sure that the school is ingraining in kids the importance of waste segregation and waste management. And after school, every Saturday, what Nitya and her friends do is that they participate in a program where they get to mentor government school kids and teach them about climate change and the importance of sustainability education. After she gets back from school, she and her family attend like a dinner at a neighbor's house, and she notices that it's a zero waste celebration. So there's absolutely no waste that's being generated at this event. And she discusses with her friends on how it's been so good to have all her birthdays and all the parties and functions at her house be zero waste as well. So she's kind of um, spreading the knowledge and like she's stressing the importance of zero waste, and she's spreading it with her fellow peers. Following the party, she gets home, and before going to bed, she kind of journals all the small green actions that she's done today that make her feel like she's contributed in some way to tomorrow's society. And before bed, she gets ready to go on the Sunday hike or walk that she does with her family every week, where they spend time in nature and they identify woodland animals, birds, insects, trees, and plants. So this is just a typical day in the life of what a student of today who is very eco-conscious, who's very environmentally conscious, this is what I think it would look like. So if we want kids to adopt a more sustainable and eco-friendly approach to life during their school days, what I think could really help is like a packaged offering that AtQuest has. It's called Sustainability in a Box, and it brings together various different aspects that will enable a lot more experiences like what we saw with Nirja. So what the Sustainability in a Box has is it has 4 different components that are like bound together as a package, and that provides kids with this holistic climate education. And let me go into each one of these in detail, starting with a carbon neutral school campus. So basically a carbon neutral school campus is just an example of how a school could become the perfect demonstration or the perfect living lab for kids to practice sustainability firsthand, right? Like, because kids spend so much time in schools, what better place than to introduce sustainability in real life than in schools. So a carbon neutral school is a school that has managed to either completely reduce or offset their carbon emissions, and they're very resource efficient. So this could be done by campus adopting sustainable trends, and it gives kids a better opportunity and to make it a habit, to make it a part of their life, to make greener decisions. So how could this possibly be done? So let me start off by saying that carbon neutrality is quite challenging for a school to adopt. It's not impossible, but it's a little challenging. So what schools could do is they could follow like a green school program, which make sure that the school is very, very resource efficient. They could have renewable energy sources, they could have energy and water management, they could have proper waste segregation, recycling, upcycling, composting. So all this involves a lot of planning, and carbon neutrality in general involves a lot of terms and conditions, but a green school program is easier to attain. And the best part of it is there are certain audits that need to be done for a school to be classified as a green school, and these audits can be done with the help of kids. So the kids participate in this auditing process, and it's a very hands-on approach that benefits both the kids and the school. Moving on to the next part of the sustainability in a box, sustainability in the pedagogy or sustainability in the curriculum. So Neerja learned a lot of things inside the classroom, if you remember, right? So what does that entail? In like AtQuest terms, we have the classroom learning module, which has 15 week-long sessions for kids from all age ranges, from class 5 to class 10. And but through this, they get started on learning about sustainability and climate change, along with what is being taught in their textbooks. So this is like an example classroom learning study plan for class 6, you can see. And it is a mix of different things. We have setting the context, which is basically just like an introductory session. And then we have classroom learning sessions, which you can see take up a majority of the 15 sessions. And then we have set a JGC checkpoint. So I'll talk about what the JGC is in just a minute. But apart from that, we also have a lot of workshops, and it's easy to see why it's very important that it becomes more interactive progressively as it goes from classes 5 to 10. So it follows a similar structure of the same 15 sessions, but the information that's being provided to kids obviously has to progressively get more complex, right, based on what class we're dealing with. Next, I'd like to talk about experiential learning, or like nature-based learning. So it's very important to get kids to understand what they're learning in the classroom. So experiential learning provides a more hands-on, visual and practical approach, and this will obviously drive the message home and make sure that what they're learning in the classroom stays with them for a lot longer. What AtQuest does in terms of experiential learning is we have 5 week-long modules for classes 5 to 10. And what this does is it improves kids' responsibility, leadership skills, and it improves creative thinking as well. It complements the curriculum and the classroom learning sessions. It's very nature and observation based. So this is an example learning plan for experiential learning, and it could include things like handouts, baseline quizzes to understand the baseline knowledge that kids might have, and then progressively as each module is conducted, there'll be more quizzes and activities and a practical approach to classroom learning, basically. So apart from learning, I think it's very important for kids to also be involved digitally in some way, because technology plays such a major role in everyone's lives today, right? Like, and so many kids are so well versed with technology and gadgets. So we think apart from just learning in schools, it's very important to equip kids with a tool where they'll be able to capture everything that they've done so far in terms of like climate action, climate education. So the classroom learning and the practical or nature-based learning, it's very important that they have some physical tool where they can see how far they've come. And I think that will give them the confidence and the encouragement to proceed further. So this is the JGC, or the Junior Green Compass, that I was talking about. I'll explain what it is. We also know that not just the JGC, but like even classroom and experiential learning needs to be progressively changed for classes. Like what we teach at class 5 can't be taught at class 10. We need to take a slightly different approach. So there we see that there is learning. They're still learning up until class 10. But as the kids get a little older, we also get them to act on what they learn, right? So, and if you see at class 8, kids also start mentoring. If you remember in Neeja's story, every Saturday she helped mentor kids in government schools, right? So this also gives them like a tool to help improve their leadership skills. Let me show you what the JGC tool looks like. This is what it looks like. It can be accessed on any device, a PC, a laptop, a tablet, or even a mobile phone, and it has a bunch of different things. So basically, it has different actions that kids can journal in what they do, and then like tick off whatever actions they're able to complete. And this could be in school, or it can be at home, or it can be outdoors. And it has different themes, like nature, waste, and water. So based on what theme it is, the journal actions are kind of segregated based on the separate themes. And there's also, like, it's not that the kids need to complete an action, they go and type it in. They have a pre-listed action under each, like a preset list of actions under each theme that the kids can just go and they can mark it as complete. So yeah, the tool also helps to work as like a self-improvement device, or a self-learning device. So the kids have various links they can click on to get like a well-rounded understanding, or if they're like interested in a particular topic, they have links they can access, and they have videos they can watch that are already pre-listed, and they can basically get a very holistic education about what action they're doing and how it can impact the world as well. So kids can also see how they're progressing in their sustainability journeys. They have 8 different tribes, and as you can see, like the soil champ, the local champ, nature champ, and the actions, they're able to see how each of their actions is kind of impacting the whole journey and which tribe they're in, and how they're already contributing to the UN SDGs in their own capacities, like how every single small action that they're doing is somehow linked to some UN SDG. So the kids can also track their own journeys, and they can earn like badges, and they can see their whole timeline as each action is completed. And this again can be accessed on any device. So this tool also works as a guide on what kids need to do next, right, based on what actions they have completed so far. So let me show you an example of sustainability in a box, in a simple way. So taking a kid who wants to work on waste segregation, or like just learn about waste, how sustainability in a box approach can be taken to education on different kinds of waste and waste segregation. So starting off with like the carbon neutral school campus. So if schools are participating in green school programs, they will have installed in-house waste segregation and recycling and color-coded bins, and the kids will be very exposed to this in schools as well. So this is an easy starting point for kids to start understanding the concept of waste and how it can be segregated and the importance of managing waste well. Coming to classroom learning. So this is what kids learn about different kinds of waste and how it must be disposed. This is what they're learning from their textbooks and through small activities in the classroom. Coming to experiential learning at home. So kids could have like home audits, and they could see how waste is being segregated in their homes as part of experiential learning. They could have visits to e-waste recycling centers or plastic waste recycling centers to see firsthand how waste is being segregated and the challenges that might exist in today's world in terms of waste segregation. And they might also have like participate in composting workshops to get like hands-on experience to see how organic waste is handled. And it's very nice if they have a digital tool or the JGC to record it and see where the school or the student stands in terms of waste management or in terms of how they're segregating and recycling their waste, and assess how their actions as a whole are impacting today's world. So this is what a sustainability in a box is basically brought out by AdQuest. Looking ahead, our plans for the future is in terms of private schools. If the pandemic allows and kids go back to school in the next year, we'd like to deliver sustainability in a box to private schools and also provide private school kids to mentor public school kids or government school kids, because we strongly believe that climate education and climate knowledge should not be restricted to one portion of society alone. It's very important. And in terms of like public schools, we have a particular program called the 1 for 1, which is a zero cost program to help deliver sustainability education for government school kids. And in order to get a better scale of impact, we'll need to utilize government channels to get access to these schools and what is the best way to deliver this kind of information and these schemes to them. And corporates could also partner with us as part of their community initiatives to help provide this kind of sustainability education to the less privileged kids as well. So the JGC or the Junior Green Compass, like I mentioned, it's the public version, it's free of cost, it's available to everyone, any kid can access it. But the JGC Plus is for registered schools only, and it has certain specific features for school management that will make it easier for them to kind of oversee and track what the kids are doing and what the teachers are doing and how they must progress. The JGC is always available to kids irrespective of the kids' status and the school status, whether the school has purchased JGC or JGC Plus. And we think that that is very cool because it provides like a zero interruption type of learning experience. It's interoperable. So whether the kid decides to stay in the same school or go to a different school, irrespective of the fact of whether that school has JGC Plus or not, the kid will always retain his progress through JGC. So I think this provides schools and societies and kids a very hitch-free journey when they're trying to adopt a sustainable way of life. And I think it's our responsibility to make it as easy as possible for them and not hard wherever we can. So this is what the broad plan ahead looks like. So yeah, that was my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Sadvika. This was indeed a very elaborative action plan, and I think a very wonderful, in fact, indeed. I would invite Dr. Sapna Nirula ma'am to share her remarks with us.
Thank you, Ashwir. Wonderful presentation, Anveshi Gupta and Sadvika Chandrasekhar. Mesmerizing. In fact, we have been dealing with sustainability at a higher education level, but what you have talked about is it really opens my eyes, because we have been talking about training the next generation, and this is the way, because these are the people who will after 10 years they will be our ambassadors, and they will be in the they will be working as sustainability professional, and this entire planet is in their hands. So it is very nice. I highly appreciate your presentation and the way you showcased. Sadvika made a very good presentation. Sustainability as a live lab, the concept of carbon neutral schools. This was discussed in COP26. In fact, that the concept of net zero schools was presented. And this is very good. But I just wanted to ask you, how many schools are right now practicing this model?
Sadvika, let me go in for that. Ma'am, the way things are, we've been 18 months in as a startup. So this time we've spent in developing the solution. So this pandemic in a way has come out as a boon for us, because that gave us enough time to kind of develop the solution. And during the development of the solution, we've engaged with 2 schools to make sure that we are not doing this in vacuum. And that's the way we made sure that it is going to be relevant when we go out there and kind of roll it out for more schools. Like Sadhvika mentioned, we are very hopeful that the next year will be a full normal academic year. And because this kind of in-a-box solution that we are talking of requires a lot of interaction. It cannot be done digitally only.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This is, this is such a carefully thought and carefully designed project. It has to be implemented at this, same level. So let me just say this to you. I belong to GNSD, and we have a sister schools project. This is a global network for sustainable development. And I'm not saying that we have so many schools, because we are also, handicapped by the pandemic. And, since last 2 years, we have been doing whatever virtually is possible. But we would like to replicate it, and maybe through a third party funding. In fact, I was thinking about these net zero schools. You have already done it, so I don't think we need to do that. So maybe I will talk to Dr. Amit Tuteja. We can take this to various schools. We have started a small experiment in the Ludhiana city of Punjab, where we are spreading climate education. So initially and also in Kerala. So we recently did a webinar in Kerala as well. So maybe we will start with a few schools. We will give you 2 schools to experiment. We will provide support, and we will also see if schools can fund it. So I just wanted to also know how is this initiative funded? Do you have a third party funding, or?
No, we definitely, when it comes to the public schools initiative, the 1-for-1 program that Sadhvika mentioned, we are not going to talk about any funding at all. But if there is a corporate CSR, corporate community engagement that they are doing, we would definitely want to ride on it so that it's easier. But when it comes to private schools, sorry, ma'am.
So we will ask the schools if they are able to fund it.
Exactly.
And I will also see that if GNSD and a corporate can join hands and replicate your project in various schools. In fact, we have been thinking about it, but I think we don't need to do that hard work, because immediately after COP26 discussed the concept of net zero schools, I was thinking of it. And you can replicate it. I will talk to Dr. Amit Tuteja. We've already signed an MOU with Connecting Dreams Foundation. So I think that should be easy, right?
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Amit, are you here?
Ma'am, sir had to leave early.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Thank you. I also have my colleague Sirat with me. Sirat, do you have any observation here?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. I am a student of, so Dr. Sapna Narula is my dean, and I represent Nalanda University. I'm a student of MBA Sustainability, second year. And surely the speaker who talked about the education for climate awareness, sustainability, of course, it would, develop knowledge, skills, values, and of course, the worldly views which are necessary for the people. And here we are talking about educating the children, where it all starts. So for people to act in ways that kind of contribute to a more sustainable pattern of living. And of course, it would, it would get reflected, because we are talking about the school time education, that always stays with us. And that's a way of engaging with the world through sustainable ways. So yes, it is a future oriented thing, and it was very new to me. It's a world-class idea, focusing on protecting environment and, including it in the school curriculum only. That
and
would support
and I like that climate, when Sadhvika said climate education must be equitable. So that is the only purpose of sustainable development goals. So when Ashwir invited me for this forum, I was asking her how much time you will take. Will you take 1 hour? Please finish it in 50 minutes. But it seems now I am in no hurry. Whereas, Ashveer is, because I'm so engrossed in this. Okay, let's move to next presentation, Ashveer.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are done with our presentations. We had the two set of panelists here with us. But before moving ahead, Clement Dyke has raised his hand. Clement, do you have any question for the team here? Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Clement. Please do share. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'm from Nigeria, so I'm looking at how can this software be used in Nigeria here. I know it's a new development. How can we use it here for climate change? Is there any way they can domesticate it or transfer the knowledge to us here so that we can use it to in our schools?
Okay, so this question is for Dr. Anveshi. So he's asking how can we use this model in the schools at his place?
Oh, sure, Clement. So the one thing that we are very clear about, as much as we talk of equity in different sections of the society, climate education is again a universal thing. So whatever we've put together, if you believe there is a case for you to kind of leverage that in your geography, more than happy to discuss and explore that and make it happen for you. None of this is meant only for India. None of this is so very ingrained only for India. So we definitely believe it's a universal thing and we will be more than happy to join hands.
Thank you, sir. Clement, if you want to proceed ahead and if you want to discuss it more, I can share the contact details of Atquest.
Yeah. So I've already sent a message in the chat box. I think it would be good to have Anveshi's phone number.
Yeah,
Anveshi, can you please give me your phone
I'm
number?
typing it in, and I'm typing it in with the international code as well, so that Clement wouldn't have an issue as well.
Sure. Let's move to next presentation, Anveshi. Oh, Ashveer?
Yes, ma'am. We are done with the presentations.
Okay.
But ma'am, I do have a question for you. I really want to know, like, how can we increase the youth participation at grassroots level, where we can include them, in following these sustainable practices that can reverse, or stop this negative impact on the climate. Like, we all are trying to make efforts, but the interest and the engagement of youth is a real issue here.
So let me just tell you, Ashveer, in fact, some 15 to 20 years back when we were in schools or colleges, we used to hear about climate change, but we were never interested in it. Believe me, it never impacted us. It never occurred to us that, we may be threatened by it. Okay, so until that in Delhi, I have seen people having facing asthma, and then people dying in floods, Chennai rains, Chennai water crisis, all these disasters, people losing their farmers losing the crops, and the implication on zero hunger. So I'm not talking about myself because I am a sustainability professor. So climate knowledge has to reach to every level, at the grassroots level, whether it is a small farmer or a kid, everyone has to know that after 15 to 20 years, what will be the impact of my actions. Say, for example, you talk about businesses. So whatever the kind of products and services they have been having, they never bothered about the impact of these services, whether it was 2G or 3G and the disappearance of sparrows from Delhi life, or even PepsiCo or Coca-Cola. I don't want to name companies, but almost every company, and the usage of Tetra Packs and plastic bags, how they have dominated. Electronic waste is another nuisance, right? So whenever you design a product, you conceptualize a product, you never thought about it. So it has to go right down to the design thinking, the moment where you innovate. We need to go back to that level in the R&D department, where earlier they only used to talk about what is the market feasibility. They never talked about what is the sustainability of this product. They only talked about financial feasibility, financial sustainability. But the other two pillar, environmental and social sustainability, are to be considered. Another good example I will give, and I give it to my students as well, that a company called Apple is manufacturing mobile phones only for a select set of customers. Communication is businesses through their products and services are not reaching to the to the society, to the masses. And I know about Nokia, how they were working on the sustainability front, how they tried to reduce their packaging, how they came up with small sets, which were affordable. Apple said, it's more than ₹1,00,000. It's not affordable by all, right? So I'm not saying that we don't need these technologies. We need technologies which are affordable. Okay, so we are all talking about Tesla motors, that such a path breaking car and electric vehicles that they are talking about. But these again, the engine that they are inventing is not affordable by all. So of course Elon Musk is also talking about after 10 years they will reduce the price of the engine. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it has to come from the business level. And who are working at the businesses? Today, those who are kids, they will be working in the businesses. They will be the CEOs. Why are we not understanding? When it comes to our professional level, we leave sometimes, while walking from our office, we leave sustainability in the office, and we reach, an unsustainable person reaches home, right? So we may be doing something. Why don't we understand that we are all connected? A person who is principal in the school and talking about climate education, she has to go and do the same thing at the household level, right? So I am here, I'm a parent, I am an educationist, I am making impact at various levels. So what happens is that, while walking down, sustainability kahin chhoot jata hai. So that is, we don't have to, leave sustainability. It is part of our life. So this is one thing. So if we want to approach at the grassroots level, we have to, as I told Vaibhav as well, that wonderful work that he's doing, but we have to reach to the communities. Now this model that Anveshi and Sadvika are talking about, it's an excellent model. But if they don't try to engage with people, it will die. Anveshi will be doing some other job in Zomato or some other company, and Vaibhav will be doing some other job. Sadvika will be elsewhere earning money and doing other things. So that is what I'm saying, that one has to be passionate about making things happen. This model, or Vaibhav's model, or Sadvika's model, or Sapna's model, it has to reach more people. So let's engage. Right. So I think last year, Arshveer, you invited me to write an article that I think you should forward to all of them, where
Sure.
I talk about, that how we can empower and how we can engage with people. Right. So, so I think sustainable products and services, these are the things that we have to talk about, and we have to talk about new models, novel business models. Conventional business models that our generation has used are not going to work now. Okay, there should be more models that just like Elon Musk and even Anvesh's model or Vaibhav's model. So we have to spread, we have to do these projects, we have to experiment with new business models, the new thinking, whether it is use of energy or waste. We have to use new thinking. For example, I always give this example of Bollywood celebrities wearing very jazzy clothes and the kind of designer clothes they wear. How about recyclability? And they are the people who we all follow. I also follow sometimes that I need that sari or a dress, but we do that, but we never think about the recyclability of that thing. The fact is that marketing versus sustainability, there is a clear-cut dilemma. Okay, marketing says sell more, and sustainability says that resource efficiency. Okay, so you have to think about that. So it's just like there is a dilemma. So we have to have the middle way, just like Buddha preached. So we have to have some way where fashion can be done in a recyclable manner. I would suggest that even these designers, they have never thought about it, because and there are ways of earning in the recyclable fashion as well. Believe me, it's not that you will not be earning there. There will be earnings. The only way, you have to think how you do it. Okay, so innovation, new business models, all these things, by adopting sustainable lifestyles. I think somebody was talking about that. So it has to come from inside, right? So how I use my car, how I share my vehicle with others. In Delhi, you will find people having, one household having 3-4 cars on an average. Okay, so each person traveling in a different car. So we are talking about pollution, and we are talking about asthma. Who is responsible for this asthma, or who is responsible for these respiratory diseases? We all are responsible, through our actions. If you ask Delhi people to travel by bus, no, it hurts the status symbol. Am I not right, Vaibhav?
Definitely. Yeah, this is the case.
So a new status has to be formed, where we have to reject those people who are unsustainable. Okay, and we have to value the people who emulate Gandhiji, who emulate simple people. So I think again, I will say the same thing. Seerath would know, and Arshvir also knows from that we have failed you, but you have the power in your hands. Now you start it. You don't follow us. I'm saying you don't follow us. Okay, the cars we use, the fabrics we wear, the dresses we design, you don't follow us. You invent a new way for yourself, right? And then come to us. Just like today, you have brought a different model. When I was 23, Vaibhav, I never was so aware about climate change. We were studying at Delhi University. I was in Miranda House. All we knew that we have to go to Kamla Nagar and eat chole bhatura and cold coffee at Miranda canteen. At the most, we will go to St. Stephen's, right? So a wonderful job. In fact, that's commendable. I don't know how you do that job at 23. So this is how, when I was working or serving also, that was also, part of my profession. So it's good job that you are doing, but just keep doing it. So if Anveshi, I've got your number. If I don't reach out to you, you reach out to me. Okay, don't hesitate. Meet new people every time, and try to do new way of adopt new ways of living. So that's my message overall. Arshvir, I think I have given my message. Is it fine, or you have any questions?
Ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your inputs with us, your experiences with us, and definitely this message we would try replicating, we would try inculcating it in our lives. And I see that the hour is closing now, and I would really express my heartiest gratitude to you, Dr. Sapna Narula, and our panelists, Mr. Anveshi, Sadvika, and Vaibhav. You know, I think I can say it on the behalf of the society, on the behalf of our generation, that thank you so much for all the work that you are doing for us and for the upcoming generations. And thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
And regarding any technical help that Anveshi you would be needing, we are experts. Like I know how to do environmental footprinting, water auditing, and other things. So technical help we will provide you, but how you translate it so that the kids can understand. I know you are good at, right? Thank you so much. And Vaibhav, all the best for your Antarctica expedition. Yeah. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to hearing from you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would also extend a heartiest gratitude to the audience, those who have joined us, those who will be watching it live in the coming days. Thank you so much. And I would request if you can share your experiences about this session, and do not forget to tag CDF India. So CDF_India. We'll be looking forward to hearing from you. And so thank you so much. See you in the next year. I wish you a very, very healthy, prosperous, happy new year on the behalf of CDF India. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. All the best.